Hello, this is your host Vaibhav. I welcome all of you to today's session of Daily Stock, in which we are going to consider the Wells Fargo's quarterly earnings for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2023. This is in continuation of our ongoing series, in which for last couple of sessions we have been looking at the financial reports of these major institutions of finance from the United States to see if there are opportunities for us to trade and invest. So our search continues. In last two sessions, I covered JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America for you, in which the underlying undertone momentum was tilted on the bearish side. But here we have the case of Wells Fargo, which is looking not that bearish, neither from the fundamental point nor from the technical point. And I think if we give it time and allow some clarity to emerge, we can be in a position to profit from its potential move on the upside. So we will be talking about the opportunities which might arise in coming weeks to go long in the Wells Fargo stock after having considered its financials, its positioning currently, in which it seems to be doing well in rather challenging environment. Because if we look at the macroeconomic data, the slowdown is happening and the interest rates are running high, and as a result of that, the macroeconomic environment is not really that easy for these financial companies to operate. And in such an environment, we have to look at the possibility of these challenges being overcome, and then the business also has to grow. So we are going to look at the earnings first, and afterwards we will consider the technical charting for the stock of Wells Fargo. This is the recently released earnings report, and if you look at the highlights of these reports, you will see that for the last quarter, the growth in revenues is not that high in percentage term, but still the Wells Fargo has been able to hold onto its market share and deliver slight growth, though it is not that much, but still growth is growth. And here it was able to grow its revenues mainly in a year-on-year context. And if you look at the quarter-on-quarter, then there was actually slight decline, but year-on-year there has been growth in total revenues. And also this time around, particularly for the fourth quarter, there was one time FDIC related charge which has taken off almost $2 billion of net profit from the earnings of the Wells Fargo. And this has been the case with all the major financial institutions because of the recent collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. And as a result of that, there has been higher interest rates, insurance payments related charges, and that has reduced the net income available to the common shareholders. But apart from that, the bank has been able to do well on its business fronts, where it has been able to grow its interest as well as non-interest income, and that has the Wells Fargo well positioned for the further growth, particularly in its non-interest income. There has been substantial increase over last couple of quarters, and that is helping it take a lead in this environment, even though the macroeconomic situation still remains challenging for the Wells Fargo as well as its other major peers in the finance space. So if you look at the net income, it is at US dollar 3.5 446 in comparison to the prior quarter's earnings of US dollar 5.767 billion. And if we go back a year, then the net income was particularly low, because here we are talking about the net income of the last quarter after having adjusted 1.9 billion US dollars for the FDIC related charges. So if we add it back, then the net income for the fourth quarter also goes past US dollar 5.5 billion mark. So from that perspective, the net income is quite good for the last quarter. And if we look at the total figures for the year, then there is a substantial increase in the net income for the whole year. And the revenues has also have grown quite well. So in comparison, rather, if you look at it from a yearly perspective, it is also quite good. So both from quarter on quarter as well as from year on year perspective, things are looking better for the Wells Fargo. Now, if we consider its segment-wise result, there is increase in its most of the segments. The consumer banking and lending has also seen growth in its net income from these prior not so good numbers in the third quarter. The consumer banking and lending arm was actually in red, but this time around it has been able to bring in more than 2 billion US dollars. The commercial banking has also seen increase, with it now bringing in more than $1 billion, actually US dollar 1.273 billion for the last quarter. Other key segments like corporate and investment banking has seen this increase in the net revenues from losses in prior quarters to more than 1.5 billion of profit. Then comes the wealth and investment. In it also there is growth, and afterwards we consider this summary. Now, if we look at these key takeaways from the earnings report, the theme is that though the macroeconomic environment remains challenging, the leadership of the Wells Fargo and the mid-level management is also quite confident that the Wells Fargo is well placed to not only survive but eventually thrive even in this challenging environment. So we will have to now shift our gaze from tech from fundamentals to the technicals, because on the fundamental side there is not much to worry about unless new developments are there which might force us to change our outlook. But till that happens, we have these figures which are reasonably good, and in coming quarters the business environment is also likely to get better, particularly in the second half of this fiscal year 2024. Now if we look at it from the long term perspective, this is a weekly chart where each single candle has been plotted to represent a week. In this weekly chart, you can see that after having touched its recent swing high of 50.73, there has been some decline from these higher levels, but I feel that is more of an consolidation phase where after having reached its range peak, there has been again retracement, and that retracement is not that big at the current current level, but here If we are fortunate enough and if there is indeed a dip in the stock of Wells Fargo in coming weeks, and if it holds the ground closer to the 40, I think we can indeed go for newer trading opportunities to trade and invest from the longer term perspective as well, because for last couple of quarters the price level around 35 to 40 has been a strong support area. So unless there is any significant break on the lower side, we can take our chances provided we do it in a prudent manner. And for that, I think the price level of around 40 is going to be the strong support area for us moving forward as well. So if there is correction from the current levels and consolidation on the lower side, we can indeed go for newer trading opportunities. So that possibility is there. Now, if we change the time horizon to make it medium term, then here also from the medium term perspective, you will have to allow it to consolidate first, at least for a couple of weeks, because after having seen these continuous rally from sub 40 levels to 50 sub 50 levels, we have seen these move on the lower side, and currently for today's session it is trading higher but not that convincing yet for newer long trade. I feel that in keeping up with our assessment for the longer term, here also from medium term perspective the opportunity is likely to come our way, but for that we need to look at the way price action unfolds for the Wells Fargo over next couple of days, couple of weeks, and if it doesn't really dip too much below the US dollar 44 mark, and if it continues to consolidate, then we can indeed go for newer trading opportunities with the possibility of Wells Fargo again starting to climb and move past the US dollar 50 mark. But currently it is too early to say, and as a result of that, I would say that we will have to allow it more time for the consolidation to take place, and maybe in a week or two we can indeed have the opportunity to go long in the Wells Fargo stock. Now, if we look at the short-term charting, after this extended consolidation of almost a month in these price level close to 50, we have finally seen this sharp decline after the release of the quarterly earnings. But at it, I am looking like it is more of an profit booking and consolidation phase. So in course of time, we can even expect the stock of Wells Fargo to start climbing again. But as the expectation is for next couple of days, I feel we can even go for newer short selling opportunities if we find it closer to the 47-48 price band. So keep looking for the moves toward these price level, not very far from the current levels, and if there is consolidation for a day or two, we can take our chances and go for newer trades in the short term environment where our time horizon will be rather limited, and maybe a session or two can be our time horizon, as there is a possibility that after due consolidation it might change course. So this is particularly for a lower time frame where the time horizon should not be more than couple of days. So if you are looking for short term opportunities, then it is better to focus on the possibility of Wells Fargo stock continuing to move downward, and in keeping up with that expectation, we can even go to initiate the short sell trade for a couple of sessions at most. So that's my assessment looking at the Wells Fargo's financial earnings and the technical charting for last quarter. And the key theme of these development is the bullish undertone, but currently there are no opportunities to directly jump in. Maybe after a session or two, we can think about initiating the short trade if things are favorable enough for the Wells Fargo stock. But from medium term as well as from longer term perspective, we will have to trade cautiously and allow more time for the consolidation to take place, and eventually the opportunity is likely to arise in it as well. So that's my assessment, in which we have seen that the prospects differ as we shift our time horizon. There is different view on the lower time frame and different one for the medium and longer time frame. So depending on your time horizon, we can take our chances and go for newer opportunities. So now it's time for me to sign off for the day, as I have also considered these fundamental and technical prospects, and I am quite confident that if we are patient enough and make the risk reward ratio favorable enough, we can take advantage of the situation and profit from it. Now I am signing off for the day. Thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous day ahead. See you next time around. Till then, goodbye.